and welcome to another edition of Witch Chat Chats. And come on in and sit for a spell. We are sponsored by Evermoving We Rise and Moonlight Potions and Charms. I am your amazing goddess host, Miss Nikki Kirby. And we are joined by the Chaos Magician, the mysterious guy from hell. He's got an office in hell. Keep saying he's got an office in hell, but nobody can find it. Ooh, nobody can really find it. His name is Saul Ravencraft. How you doing, Saul?
Maps don't really work in hell. You just got to get a feel for the place. It's landmark driven. You got to be there for a while to find your way around. I am fantastic, Nikki. How are you doing?
I'm good, Saul. It's kind of like what, the Winchester House?
There you go. There you go. That's a good comparison. Well, I tell you, it's funny. I'm finally getting over my stupefaction from October. October just honestly kicked my ass. I mean, it was in good ways. But there was a lot going on. There was a lot of energy going in and going out, and I don't always handle that stuff as gracefully as I might. You know, some people can just be inundated with this stuff day after day, and they're just cool. And for me, sometimes it just slaps me with the fish. And I'm finally starting to get into a normal vibration. But I tell you what, though, this October was so impactful that my vibration is changed forever.
I can tell, you know, you've actually gotten older as your beard has grown longer.
Wiser.
And longer.
But hey, the person who is looking toward my Santa bookings, she asked me how my Santa beard was coming along, and I said, well, you tell me. And I texted her a picture, and she said, hello, Santa. And I said, hello, nurse. So she's pleased with it, and if she's pleased, that's great. And I've got a new belt coming that is a beautiful wide leather belt, not a costume belt. I mean, this is a serious leather worked belt with lovely designs all over it. And I've got my I've moved past the white cotton gloves, and I actually have white leather gloves that I use. So it's serious Santa. And one thing that I know about Santa that not everybody thinks about is there are strong connections between Santa and Odin.
Yep.
The connections between those two vibrations. So anytime you are portraying Santa, there is that Odin underneath it. And knowing that changes how that connection occurs. There's a power underneath it that is palpable. And as you go deeper, you know, Jim Butcher puts Santa in the Wild Hunt because of his Odin aspect. And so there's an edge to all of that a lot of people aren't aware of, but I know.
Oh, yeah. So now you're going to have to go to the gym and get pumped up because Michael Douglas made a very good Santa Claus. He looked very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to get pumped up like he was.
Well, we'll see what
very
happens.
Good as a Santa Claus. Oh, he was
We'll
hot.
see where things lead.
No. Michael Douglas. Oh, my God. All right. All All right, boys. So what is your announcement? So what are you doing this week, Mr.
Well, there's
Scott?
momentum moving forward out of October. And this is actually a moderately full week. On tomorrow, I'm going to be doing Ravencraft's Vault of Horror. The drive-in edition was last week. It's one of these weird weeks where the weird months where the second Monday comes after the second Wednesday. But we're going to be at Mr. Tramp's doing Vault of Horror. We're watching the wonderful Vincent Price in The Haunted Palace, which is just a fantastic movie. It's a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe and a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft. And a little bit of Roger Corman with a whole lot of Vincent Price. And I think this is one of Vincent Price's most villainous roles. A lot of his characters seem to come into things accidentally. They deal with these terrible things, and he's more of a victim of circumstance. But here he plays a dual role of someone who is an ancestor who placed a terrible curse, and then a relative down the line who comes into contact with this curse and starts to be taken over by his ancestor. And his ancestor is not good. Mm-hmm. So it's a great story, beautifully shot, well worth it. And on the Thursday, I'm going to be at Curia Arcanum's House of Curiosities in residence. So come on by, get a reading. We can chit-chat about things. It's really free form what we do at that time. And then at 6 p.m. Central Time, I always do a live broadcast from there that everybody can participate. And I answer questions. I talk about what's going on at the moment, just in my world, things I reflect on. And then we always do some gallery readings. So that's something you can tune into no matter where you are. And then November 18th and also on the 26th, I'm going to be back at Mama Merlot's, which is the underground speakeasy where I do things. It's connected to Doc's Drive-In where I do the Vault of Horror on the big screen. And I'm teaming up with Tracy St. Croix, who is a medium and just a fascinating person. She is just so adorable and so sweet to deal with. And yet she's a badass when it comes to the metaphysical. And she and I are teaming up to do something called Magic, Mediumship, and More. And it's going to be a gathering where we'll deal with some of my encounters and understandings through artifacts. We may end up playing some intuition games depending on how people feel. But talking about creating that context where you can make connection. And then she's going to interact with people with her own perspective on all of that, and we're gonna see what comes up. So that's unusual for me to do a collaboration like that. I hope it becomes more common because I love teaming up with people and combining those energies. But that's going to be on November 18th and the 26th, and tickets are only $13. So that's ridiculously good value for that. And you get a chance to gather and really get into this experience. And then on the Sunday, I'll be, we'll have another broadcast going on, but I'll also be at Curia Arcanum's back in residence there. So people who maybe can't play hooky on the Thursday get a better opportunity to connect with me on the Sunday. In between that, all the other stuff. There's some other stuff coming up that I can't completely share because otherwise it might blow up. You gotta be careful with things that are in progress. People who aren't involved in creative work have no idea how many projects don't happen just because they don't happen. There's it's not animosity or anything like that. It's just not every idea bears the fruit that you expect it to. Right. And so you've always got to, you can get excited, but you got to let things get past that first point. It's like a couple being reluctant to share a pregnancy. A lot of them go great, but sometimes something gets complicated, and you have to maintain the private work on that until it gets past a certain point, because it's hard to deal with a creation that doesn't see the light, and it's even harder when you have to take it back.
Yep. Oh
now,
yeah.
You've always got stuff going on. What's going on with you?
My God, it sounded like you just had tons and tons and tons and tons. Like, geez.
Well, we've talked about my vibration changing, and it's come with a lot of new understanding and new energy. And I'm finding myself digging into stuff that I hadn't touched for years. And it's fascinating to find yourself go, oh my gosh, I forgot all about this. I have work to do.
All right. Well, on the 21st is going to be Evermoving We Rise's new moon ritual. So, we're kind of excited about that. I'm not going to be there, but we are going to have our guest, High Priestess MJ. She's going to do an absolute wonderful ritual that a lot of people are very excited to do, and I know she will do an excellent job because she is a wonderful person. So if you go into the summary, you'll be able to see that. So that will be Evermoving We Rise. And then we at Moonlight Potions and Charms, we got a sale going on, 10% off of all of our baths, our bath bombs. And then we've got 10% off of several different other items that we have. So we're having a lot of those. We've got some new items that are coming up. And we are having so much fun when it comes to those things. And so, make sure you keep coming and checking back, because we always have something new everywhere when we come out with stuff. And I mean, when it comes to November happens to be the month of the dead and of the ancestors. And, with Moonlight Potions and Charms, especially since I happen to be the founding member, we have a lot to do with ancestors, and we have a lot of products when it comes to the ancestors, when it comes to the Baron Samedi, Mama Brigé, Hecate, all of those. We got so many different products when it comes to those. So make sure that you go and look and see what we got, so you can be able to honor all of those entities and have some fun with them. All right. So, and make sure that you check us out. Check out Witchcraft Chats, because we are everywhere. We are on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and so much more. Subscribe to us, follow us, like our pages, download our episodes, and take us on the go. And you can go to our link tree to find out where we are and what we're doing and what we're up to, because you never know where we're going to be. And we got something more that's going to be exciting next month. And so, what's going to happen next month?
Well, the big news is that Manifestasia 2023 tickets come on sale, finally. It's going to be a wonderful gathering in January. We have a number of speakers lined up. We have some changes we've made to the way that this is all going to happen, so that there will be more social opportunities for everybody. And we're going to have some special social opportunities even before the event occurs for people who have bought their tickets to say thank you for that. So this is the time to start looking to reserve the 21st and 22nd of January to make sure that you don't miss that. And then keep an eye on the Witch Hat Chats pages so that you can see your opportunity to grab your tickets. Jump on it, because saving till the last minute, you're going to miss some things. There's going to be some pre-things that happen that you won't get to do until you buy your ticket.
Yes. And also, we're going to actually have witch shots. So we're actually going to be doing something. Not just sitting there. They're going to be doing something. Ooh. What are we going to do? Ooh.
So if you joined us for 2022, you know that there's some great stuff that happens. If you have not been, you got to jump in. We listen to people's feedback about everything, and we have taken it into account. I promise you this is going to be different than many of the virtual events that you attend, because our focus is going to be a little different and our techniques are going to be a little different. I think you're going to like it. We're trying to keep it easy for you.
So, Mr. Saul, do you want to know where our divination is for today?
Always.
Ooh, always. Okay, so everybody knows that I drink yogi tea. It's the positive energy tea, and they always give us the little divination on the end of the tea. And today's divination is, drum roll, be at peace with yourself. Oh, all right, Mr. Saul. So we need to know, what is it that you think about our wise and amazing divination that we just had?
Be at peace with yourself. Well, I mean, this is kind of a foundational concept, isn't it? This is something that we have to deal with all the time. It's when we talk about shadow work, that is exactly what we're talking about. People misunderstand what that work is. See how I did that?
You mean it's not dealing with shadows and just hitting shadows and everything?
Well, I think people have the idea that all of that is trying to get rid of these things, and it's not the case. You have to deal with yourself as a whole. In fact, our guest today is very appropriate to talk about this idea. You have to deal with all the parts of your body, all the parts of your mind. And sometimes what you see as darkness is something that has become helpless. It's that little girl standing in your brain who can't do anything but scream. And maybe what she needs is a hug and an ice cream. And to be recognized. That doesn't mean that you don't have discipline. That doesn't mean that you don't take those darker aspects of yourself and have some level of control. But denial ain't just a river in Egypt. You can't just bury that stuff. You have to find out how to incorporate it into your whole. So being at peace with yourself is self-acceptance. Being at peace with yourself is true knowledge of yourself, and being able to do your thing while at the same time not denying any aspect of yourself. It's I think where you become truly powerful. I'm still working on it. I don't have it down yet. There are parts of myself that I'm still learning how to encounter and how to be comfortable with. And I consider myself to be along the path somewhat. I don't know about you. You may have it all mastered by now.
Well, being at peace with yourself is being able to do your own thing and not really caring what other people think. And that's pretty much what I do. I just got to that point. The thing about it is, your path is not the same path as your mama's path is not the same path as your daddy's path or your brothers or your uncles or your kids or anything like that. Your path is your path. It's going to be different. You're going to have different experiences than anybody else's path. I mean, even if you have a twin sister or a twin brother, it's still going to be a different path. You're still going to have different experiences. You guys could be together 24/7 and you're still going to have different experiences. So that's just the way it's going to have to be. Right. You can't sit here and please everybody. You can't be a people pleaser all the time because that's just not the way to live. You have to go and do your own thing. And once you learn how to do that, you'll be a lot more happier. I know I am.
Right.
People pleaser, guess what? When I was a people pleaser, I was not happy. Not happy at all. Because I couldn't please everybody. My mother was never pleased. Nobody in my family was ever pleased. And everybody said everything that ever happened in their lives was my fault. Even though I had nothing to do with it. There was nothing I did that ever made anything right. And there was nothing I did that actually caused anything that happened to them. And once I understood that, it didn't matter. So once you understand that, and once you get that knowledge, and say, hey, I can only control what I can control, and I can only do what I can do. There's nothing else. Not my circus, not my monkeys.
Love
Basically, that's it.
Love it.
All right. And so it's time for us to take a quick break and listen to these fabulous messages from our sponsors. Have you wondered what spirituality is? Spirituality is limitless, as it does not contain any boundaries on beliefs or practices. Spirituality's most important component is personal experience and allows one to explore it freely. Evermoving We Rise is a spiritual moving tradition, as our name is our lifestyle, because we are persistently rising and moving forward. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We'll teach you to become friends with your shadow, emerge your authentic self, and give you time and space to develop your own spirituality. And when situations bump back, you'll have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Visit us on our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box. Behind the door, and ye should find the return of the Barebone Trio. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil, skeletons. This Barebone Trio reminds us not to take life too seriously and shows us the sense of humor we all have. Each one crafted with specific detail and are great for the Day of the Dead, your ancestor altar, Halloween, Samhain, Hecate, and the possibilities are limitless. And there is so much more in our wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you.
At Witch Hat Chats, we promote magical knowledge, arts, and music from all cultures. We invite you to join us as our guest to share your practice, especially if your traditions are lesser known. Email us at witchhatchats@gmail.com. Tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page.
And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. I am Saul Ravencraft. I am here with Miss Nikki Kirby, and it is time for us to bring in our special guest today.
Oh, it is. You sure?
Well, I mean, I guess we could skip that part, but she came all this way.
A professional artist, author, performer, and modern witch, this guest host holds a bachelor's degree of fine arts, who has received awards and honors worldwide for her mythological and mystic artwork. The author and artist of many different books, including Visual Alchemy, Anatomy of a Witch, and Anatomy of a Witch Oracle, we like to welcome my friend, Laura Tempest Zakroff. How you doing, Laura?
I am doing great. How are you all doing?
I am doing awesome.
Excellent.
All right. So the last time I saw you was at Mystic South.
That was a hot minute ago.
Oh, yeah, that was what, almost 6 months ago?
Let's see, July, I think we're in November. So the question is, what is time? So it sort of feels like it was last week. At the same time, it feels like it was 3 years ago. So both.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and you have just published another book, or was that book just coming out this year?
So we've had technically actually 3 things that have come out very recently, all at once, because that makes it more fun, right?
Right.
The Anatomy of a Witch Oracle was technically released in August. Visual Alchemy came out in October, and just right now we have the anthology, The Gorgon's Guide to Magical Resistance, from Reveler Press, which is the thing I keep forgetting on because it's like another side of things. So we were like, everything all at once. Like, yeah, it's not how it's planned, but that's how the universe rolls.
All right. Yeah. And, I remember taking your workshop for the Anatomy of a Witch, and I thought that was really fascinating how you were able to break everything down. So could you kind of explain that to our audience, since most of them probably haven't read your book?
Sure. So Anatomy of a Witch is delving into the body as the most important immediate magical tool. We're obsessed within magical practices, right? With the stuff, like we love the candles and the incense and the oils and all the different things, but it starts in the body. Everything, our connection to magic starts here. And if we're able to connect into that, then we are more at ease in our practice. It's easier to develop and change and shift things. And so to help folks connect with the body, because it sounds easy, but it's not, because we have thousands of years of, different types of philosophies telling us that we're separate from nature, or that we're above nature, or we're evil, like all these different kinds of things, right? That make us really not want to reside fully and divinely in our bodies. And so I created this anatomy system, which is the witch's lungs, the witch's heart, the serpent, the bones, and the weaver or the witch mind. Each of them can connect physically to the body, such as breathing, right, with our lungs, and to feel our heartbeat, to know our gut, to know obviously our bones, and that our brains kind of connect everything together. But each of them are a guide or a legend to look at how do we connect to our own personal magic? How do we craft ritual? What do we do with tradition? How do we tap into our powers of vision, of intuition, of being able to change and create and renew ourselves? And how do we talk to the ancestors and to the land? And how do we not let our brains overpower everything, which they tend to do, right? We tend to overthink a lot. So it's a journey to help folks dig deeper into that.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, and I think we were discussing this, right after you're finished, which I remember it seemed like you had so much more to say than what the time that we were given, because it seemed like we were always rushed, This would be like a great thing to do shadow work with, right?
Especially when we're looking at the different parts, like when we look at one of the first bits of wisdom that we tend to find on a magical path, which is know thyself, right? And we tend to think, oh, know the good parts, right? Well, it's also knowing what's not working, what we're not good at, where we can really stretch ourselves, but also to even use our strong points to help us get better at those things, or to recognize when we need help, when we need to collaborate with others to help us through those points as well.
Right, because when it comes to any type of like physical damage or anything like that, we tend to hold that in our bodies as well, because I noticed, I think the first time I ever noticed that is when I was at my chiropractor. And my chiropractor says that I can be able to tolerate a lot of pain because trauma is actually inside the skin. It holds, your body holds a lot of physical trauma to it. That's how I'm able to hold so much pain, and I can tolerate so much, just because of all the trauma I've been able to tolerate over and over and over and over again. And you have to be able to work through that, because those little, what they call it, those little machines that a chiropractor has, the ones that they put on you and they kind of massage you and they make you feel good. Well, most people, they can't go above like a 4 or 5. Most people. Me, I have to go up to like 30 or 35 in order just to be able to start to feel it. Right? And she said that's how she knows that I can tolerate a lot of pain from that. And she said it's because you've had a lot of trauma in your life, and basically it's been piled on top of one another, and you've been able to do that. So it was kind of interesting, because they just started, I think, what was it, back in the 90s, discovering that trauma actually can make you physically sick.
Absolutely. I think about stress, think of all these different points where we start to tense up our bodies, in teaching movement, teaching dance to folks, especially in the hips. I have so many women who, as they are learning to really engage their pelvis fully, are often like surprised by tears, and not because it physically hurts, but because they've often stored trauma in those places, that there's a lot of things tied up in that. And as it loosens up, it's freeing. It's also a kind of a shock. It's a release. And because we always think it's up here, right? Like we think the brain is the primary thinking place, but our full bodies are thinking and sending messages and storing information as well, not just our brain. So, depending on whether it has to do with self-image or sexual trauma, all these different things, especially when you think about how much we center into our core of our bodies, right? it's not surprising that those things show up unexpected when you're starting to poke and prod around in there.
In your book, you spend a lot of time dealing with breath and dealing with the lungs. It really is heavy in that way. There's a lot of focus on that. And is it because that truly is where you feel most of the focus is, or that you felt like that was where you had to provide the most explanation to people?
That's a great question. So start with breath, because it's the first thing we do as we enter the world, right? We take a breath, whether we are screaming or crying or laughing into this world. That is our point of entry, where we recognize that we are spirits embodied in the flesh. But I think that there are the mysteries that the witch lungs teach us. There are 4 primary ones that are pretty difficult for a lot of us to fully accept. First is interconnectivity, right? To recognize that everything around us, right, has an essence and energy, you know, whether you look in the whole sort of spectrum of animism, to be able to recognize that we are part of the system, not separate from it, is kind of difficult. But as we get deeper, the whole concept of magic, something I've seen in the community over the last 20 to 30 years is everyone talks about magic, but very few people truly believe in their own magic, because they have been fed so many, you know, ideas. Like they feel almost silly to be like, oh yes, I believe in magic. Like, oh, you've watched too much Harry Potter, or, you know, whatever kind of thing. It's sort of this stigma attached to it. And if you think about when you take a breath, you're taking in air that you can't see, right? The oxygen and all those different particles, and you don't have to think about it. It simply happens, it comes in, and we release and have this exchange, of course, with the trees around us, right, between carbon dioxide and oxygen that's being released. And we start thinking about the effects of air. Even though we can't see it, we can perceive it. And I think that's a great way for folks to connect with their magic, to be able to see, like, when, you know, the wind is flickering the leaves and the light's changing outside, I can't actually see the wind, but I can see the effects of the wind. Mm-hmm. And when we look at our own magic that way, even though you might not see it in special effects and fancy things, right, like a CGI, you start to really perceive that it has having an effect on you, on your environment, on those around you. It also teaches us about personal space, creating sacred space, and recognizing what is our own personal space, what is public space, what is personal, impermeable, shared, contained, all of that, which goes so much beyond casting a magic circle. Like everyone's like, oh, cast a circle. Like, well, why are you casting a circle? What does the circle do? How permeable do you want it to be? And then the last aspect of it is to recognize our sovereign power, that we have an effect over the world as the world has an effect over us, and that we get to relegate those boundaries and think about that control. And all that starts in the lungs. Like, so those are 4 huge concepts that really define your practice, your path, how you see yourself and your own magic. And that's why I think it's the most important thing. It's like, it seems basic, but it is the most difficult at the same time. It's often the simplest things that are the hardest for us to truly master.
Wouldn't it be more convenient if magic was as glowy as it is in the movies?
Right? we mean it's not.
Hasn't been for me. Maybe I'm not doing it right. No, and it's interesting. We had Denny Sargent on a while back, talking about connecting with the animal self and the physicality of things, and getting out of the brain a little bit, and recognizing yourself as a part of nature and in harmony with nature, and that you are not just this brain floating around in a meat popsicle. And I feel the same kind of idea from you, that idea, yes, thoughts become things. We've got to elevate ourselves. We have to own our power and all of that. And yet we're still as connected to nature and everything. We can't escape it. And I hear very much that same idea coming from you. I love it.
Yeah, love Denny. Denny's a great person. And We used to live in the same city. Now we live on different coasts.
But technology makes all that irrelevant.
Yeah, so it's always good to be able to see folks. It's a little magic in that too, right?
You bet.
So how did this graduate into an oracle?
I like to consider myself a regent of procrastination. That means when I'm trying to work on something and finish up a project, I'm often, like, my brain is splitting off into new ideas at the same time. So as I was working on, I think it was the second draft of Anatomy of a Witch, and really fine-tuning things at the same time, my brain's like, but this could be an oracle. This could be it. We could take this, we could do that. It would be amazing. Like, there's nothing that really tackles these issues of how do you do divination and meditation through the body in a system, right? That's not the tarot. That is something that really helps you connect to the body to design rituals, because that's a lot of what we also talk about with the witch heart is what is ritual? What is daily ritual? What are the moments and the patterns and the rhythms that help us really connect to our path and practice? And for many people, they know that something's wrong or amiss, or, there's something lacking, but they don't know what it is. And so being able to pull some cards that help us, pinpoint what part of the body that we might be looking at, the metaphorical and symbolic part of the body, but maybe what senses could help us tap into it. Maybe what kind of lunar or solar energy might help us redirect and connect to ourselves. And so that the oracle was already taking form. I even sent a note to my editor. I'm like, I have an idea. And she's like, finish the book first. I'm like, okay, I'll get it done.
I really understand that, because it seems like, especially with us artists, that we always have all of these ideas coming together at the same time. And they're like, no, you got to finish this first. And I'm like, but this thing is coming at the same time. And it's like, no, you got to finish this first. But it's coming at the same time, though. It's like,
it's coming,
right? Right?
Yeah, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say no because you're very excited about that thing too, and it's like, I'll just let it in the door a little bit, right? A little bit. But they're never just a little bit. They're always like, boom, open the door. Here we are too, and they're like, oh crap, now I have 2 of you to finish, or 6 of
right.
you.
Now, in the book, you were very focused on tarot, and I'm imagining that was just something that you already had experience with, something you felt like was accessible to people. But the oracle that you've designed, does it connect back into the book? Is it something that can be used in lieu of the tarot cards? How does that relationship happen?
Absolutely. So I'm a big tarot nerd. I've been using the tarot for a very, very long time. And so I love the stories and the system of the tarot. But within the oracle, it's sort of separate in that it connects directly to the body. So the concepts that I cover in Anatomy of a Witch, the different systems of the body, the different ways of engaging with the body, those are all captured in the oracle without that fear of structure, right? For tarot can be very intimidating for people who aren't familiar with it. But at the same time, you could use both, right? You can use the tarot and the oracle in tandem. A lot of people like to do that, both, an oracle deck and a tarot deck. And you can, use a combination of them to connect, because within the book, we go through essentially the Fool all the way up to the Wheel of Fortune. And so the first part of the major arcana, because the Fool to me represents the moment we become embodied. We start at 0, and I like to see the Fool as stepping onto the precipice of the mountain and beginning the journey down the mountain, rather than someone who's about to fall off the mountain. So we're seeing that moment of embodiment, and then we go through, okay, with the magician, we're figuring things out. We're understanding the mysteries of the high priestess. We are looking into the creativity of the empress, the structure and tradition of the emperor, the house ruled by spirits and the Hierophant. What does it mean to be the lover's card embodied? To pull our energy together into the Chariot, to find strength, and to also go into that hermit cave and contemplate all of this, and then also be a guide for others. So we go through that whole structure of that, and so you can tap into those major arcana. But what the Oracle deck does is helping you really go, all right, what issues should I focus on? How do I, okay, it's a lung issue. What different things can be a prescription and activity so that, oh, I changed my breath, or I'm going to bring scent into it, or, some other different types of techniques. So it becomes an idea box for people to really get stimulated, but yet very simple to use. Like there's a guidebook, but you can really follow your intuition as well, and not even look at the guidebook if you don't want to.
Love it. Absolutely love it. We're going to continue our conversation with Laura, but right now we need to take a moment to hear from our sponsors, without whom you wouldn't be hearing anything. So here's stuff you need to know. We'll be right back on Witch Hat Chats.
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all, and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to texasmojoman.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune.
And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And Saul and I are chatting with Laura. And Laura, we are going to be talking about your new book, The Visual Alchemy. And you do a lot of sigils. So how did you get into your unique way of doing sigils? Because the way I was taught was you took the word and you had to take each letter of the word and put it in there. But when I look at yours, I can't see a word in it.
So the word method was popularized by Austin Osman Spare. It actually wasn't the method he particularly used, but he kind of created it for his friends who weren't artists to use. And it's a handy method, especially for folks who get intimidated by marks and symbols and making art. But how I approached it is, I've been making art since I was 3 is when I started going to art school. So, I've always been telling stories with my art. I've been fascinated with marks and symbols and really delving into the magic of what happens, right, when I'm creating something that's 2D from a 3D or even non-physical concept and putting it on paper. So experimenting with taking classic spell elements and putting it into a 2D format or into a sculpture, a talisman. And so that's something I've always been doing and continuing to develop throughout my life. And it wasn't until a few years ago I was teaching a class called Visual Alchemy, the same title as the book, which is tracing, in that workshop, we trace the connection between art and magic from the dawn of humanity to all throughout the world, of how different human civilizations have tapped into magic through architecture, through clothing, through ornamentation, through fine art as it is. And through that, in that workshop, I show folks some of my paintings, because that's, proof to brand of, all right, these are how some artists do it. This is how I do it. And I had someone ask me about one of these paintings I was showing. They're like, what's that little squiggly thing in the corner? And like, oh, that's a sigil. I'm like, well, those don't look like sigils I've seen before. I'm like, well, this is something that I've intuitively created. Like when I'm thinking about this line or this triangle or this star, and I'm like, well, that's cool. How do you do it though? And so what I needed to do was go back and deconstruct what this has been a very internal process over many years, and say, okay, how do I teach this to other people? What's happening in my head that can be applied for other people in different ways, regardless of how artistic they think they are, their magical tradition, their background, level experience. And so I crafted the sigil witchery method. And so it is more of what I consider a cumulative method rather than a deconstructive method. So with a lot of the systems where you're taking things away, right, it's sort of like carving something out of wood, right? You get the block of wood and you're taking those pieces out, and hopefully you'll have a sculpture at the end, though in many of those methods, they say also set the sculpture on fire once you're done with it. Where here it's more like clay, right? We're building layers, we're giving something form so that at the end we have a better visualization of what it is that we want to manifest into the world. So it's very much like sympathetic magic, right? The reason why we choose certain color candles and oils and herbs and crystals in chants and rhythms and patterns, right, is because we're trying to really bring into being that idea, that goal that we're looking at, whether we're cleansing something or blessing something. All of the stuff helps us to really fully visualize and experience and perceive what is it we want to happen. But you can do that with just marks. You don't need to have all the stuff. You can just make a few lines and find that same power in there too.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, when it comes to a sigil, it really doesn't need to make sense to anybody else but you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it does. And I mean, as an artist myself, I do candles because I was showing you, we were comparing art and stuff like that, our Marie Laveau's and everything. And I was telling you, when it comes to the deity art that I do, the deities actually show me what they want, and I never put a face on mine, because how can I put a face on mine to show you what I see? Because you see something different versus what I see. I can't tell you what you see versus what I see. And it's just, it just blows my mind, some of the things that, how you put your sigils and everything. It's just like, I'm just looking here at your death and transition sigils, the ancestor connection sigil. So can you kind of explain how you got to that one?
See, so I think that is the one. We've got a few different ones in here.
It's on page 136.
Thank you.
Or is it on 163? I'm not quite sure. I'm looking at the thing.
We have we have the ancestral connection one, and we also have the Samhain sigil, as well as a psychopomp sigil in here. So those are three big, right, death and transition ones. And so a lot in the last couple of years, obviously we haven't really been able to do physical events. So I've taught a lot of virtual workshops. And as part of every sigil witchery workshop that I do, we craft a sigil collectively together. And that way everybody gets to see the method and participate in it live. And so I call these the shared magic sigils, because they come out of a collective crafting, and they can be used by other people because it's explained and with every single sigil as it's released, what went into it, what does it mean, and how to use it, rather than being just some sort of random squiggle that shows up on Tumblr, right?
Right.
Like, what does that mean? So This particular one was crafted a little over a year ago. It was October 19th on virtual workshop, the Ancestral Connection. I'll show that to folks. There.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there we get very simply crossroads. Right, we've got crossroads, we've got kind of balance. Our pluses and our X's can represent the different marks and elements in there, but also dynamic and static energy when dealing with spirits. We also have it moving into the future, and it's hard to see with things that are reversed, but we have a destination and somewhere to go. We also have the ability for insight as well as protection worked into that. And it's all centered around the heart, right? So for that ancestral connection, it can be connecting to ancestors that we already know and are, building relationships with, or it can be reaching out to someone that we haven't figured out yet in our own ancestral lineage, or somebody who is among the mighty dead, our beloved dead, within our realm, within our practice, within our larger community. So, something like that, great to put on a candle, great to do workings at this time of year, all the way through January, I would say. Where there's also, you'll find in here the Samhain sigil, which was created in Florida back in 2018, and Enchanted Earth, which unfortunately I don't believe that shop has closed down, but it was a great shop there. And so we were right around Samhain. They were going to do a big Samhain ritual, and they're like, what do we do we really want to create something that helps the energy come through and connect with ancestors and spirits at that. So this one becomes more of a doorway in that almost veve energy, if you will, with that, because it's about opening up that potential through that. And it's not necessarily more a personal ancestor connection where you're working maybe one-on-one with something, but rather, how do you tap into that? Or maybe you're doing it so that you are going to open up a new process or a journey for yourself or a group that's going to last through the dark half of the year. So a little bit of variation, but all of them explain like what went into the sigil and how to use them.
Yeah, because you've got sigils for luck and prosperity. You have them for time and place, which I kind of like those. You got several different ones for protection. Even one for a resilience sigil for women.
Mm-hmm.
I like those. And then you got one for like you tell them about how they can apply these for ritual application and stuff. You really do have a lot of these and tell them how to apply these things. So it seems like this is a really, really good book.
It's, having done this now for several years, teaching all over North America and over into Europe and such, and having different folks what needs, what's happening in the world. So you have environmental concerns, you have personal health concerns, you have political concerns. There's things about how do we deal with, housing crisis? How do you deal with financial and prosperity? So kind of everything that really can affect somebody who is focused and awake of what's going on in the world and also would like to help engage in these things. There's a sigil that's been created for it, at least so far. Not to say there's been a sigil for absolutely everything, but these are the ones that I felt were the most useful for a large variety of different people. And even though they've all been posted on my blog, or most of them have been posted on my blog over the, since 2016 or so, that it's sometimes just easier to have it in one place, one physical copy, and then also kind of reference to see, oh, okay, maybe I'm creating a sigil about this thing, what's already been done that's similar to it. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you see the overlapping elements in there. So that can also really help folks out. You can also see it and then shift it a little bit for something else. We're like, oh, this seems perfect, except I really want it in blue, and I feel like I need to add a star in here for personal reasons. So it gives people a reference tool, but also a means to personalize these things for themselves too, or for their groups, right? If you're working within a group, a coven, an organization, a temple, etc. So it's kind of hoping folks could do that and also see how they can create other sigils in those formats as well.
I'm imagining that there are some people listening to this thinking that picking a sigil out of the book ready-made is magically lazy or cheating or something like that. I'm sure you have thoughts on that.
Oh, yes. And I say it in Sigil Witchery. I really think that the best sigils are personalized, that you understand everything that went into it so that you have a good working understanding of it, versus what I think a lot of people do, which is they just Google, love sigil. And like, oh, I guess this is a sigil for love. Well, what kind of love? What is it? Is it a self-love? Is it, drawing love to you? Is it a sexual thing? Is it a passionate thing? Is it pet love? It's like, what kind of love are you looking at? So many of those things don't explain the how and the why and everything that goes into it. Where with everything that I'm putting out there as a shared magic sigils, they're understood that you do have an insight. Here's the list of everything that was brainstormed. So you're like, oh, this went into the sigil and this went into the sigil and these are all things I understand. I can visualize. I'm putting them together. And then if you respond to it, it's the power of using a symbol. Like so many things around us, like when you think about branding, right? Branding and logos and such, those are technically kinds of sigils. They represent a brand, an entity, something bigger, right? Standing in for a quality, for a certain kind of food, a certain sort of performance. So the shared magic sigils kind of go into that realm as well, is that you breed enough familiarity with it as well as a full understanding of what's gone into it. Then from there, you can be an educated user, because so there is work, right? You have to take that time to work, to familiarize yourself. You need to redraw it for yourself to really get it in, under your skin, if you will, whether that's painting or tracing or dancing it out. So, if there's something in one of the shared magic sigils, you're like, well, I don't agree with those 3 points. I'm like, then you probably shouldn't use that sigil, right? Because it's not responding to you. But it's far different than picking somebody else's random little squiggle off the internet that you don't understand where they're coming from or what they mean with it. So it's better in that case, particularly when it's really personal, right? So the shared magic are very large social issues. Right? Housing crisis. That is something we all can really understand and get behind on a larger political and social scale. But if you need to create something to get a job, I don't have a get a job sigil in here, because what does that mean to you, right? How much money do you want to make? Is it an open office or personal office? Do you work from home? Do you get benefits, health benefits? All these different things that you want. That is a sigil that's best used, personalized, created specifically for you and for your particular outcome, because it won't just, even if you go search, get a job sigil, what does that mean? You could do a prosperity sigil, right, which is a little more general, but you still need to add your own goal and focus to it.
As you were describing the technique, I felt a sort of harmony between what you were doing with sigils and something, say, like the throwing of bones.
Mm-hmm.
There's a personal interpretive process, and not everything has to mean the same thing to everybody else. We've talked about bones. I know that Nikki is it's a regular practice for her. It's something I've been tinkering with. But you seem to be doing artistically the same kind of idea of finding the meaningful pieces. Is it always a design process for you, or do you sometimes just kind of toss the symbols and see how they arrange and then fit them together?
So sometimes you get the idea, right? Like you get a sense of like this sigil is going to be based around this particular theme or symbol or icon. And then sometimes it is just the figurative part. So the 4 steps for sigil witchery is 1, figure out what your goal is, right? What's your problem? 2 is to brainstorm it, which is to be like, all right, not just get a job, but get a job with these parameters, right? To be specific, though not too specific. And number 3 is the design process, which is to look at each of those things. So if you want to get a job that allows you for upward mobility, maybe that's an arrow. Your own personal workspace, maybe that's a square for you. Maybe you want to get 80K a year, then maybe you might put 80K, as, because those are symbols too, letters and marks like that can work into that. And in the design process, you can really refine. If you have like, oh, maybe there's actually 6 circles in here, we really only need 1, so that you're really bringing it home that it's condensed down like that. So it doesn't have to be something really eccentric and full of stuff, right? The kitchen sink. And that's what visual alchemy is all about, refining it. So in this book, I talk about how do you take something where everybody's sort of kitchen sink the whole thing, which means they put down every symbol they can think of and reduce it down so it's a clearer image. There was one, I think that one of the examples, like for reducing anxiety, imagine a sigil that has everything in it, creates anxiety, right? You're looking at something that's so busy. You want something that's calming, that's soothing. And so that you do work that design down to refine it. And then the last step is to apply and acknowledge your sigil, which is not actually necessary. Like once you've finished your sigil and you're done with it, you really don't need to do anything else. But because we're human beings and we do love ritual and we do love the stuff, that's where you might carve it onto a candle, that you might bake it into a pie, that you might tattoo it upon your skin, that you might dance it, whatever method works for whatever goal you have, then you can do that there. But that time of drawing the sigil out and kind of working with those thoughts, right? You're refining it, like as you're saying, like throwing the bones, right? It's what shape do I see? What is the proximity of the little toy soldier next to the raccoon bone, right? Like what does that mean in there when those two things are really close versus when they are far apart? You can apply that same technology to crafting a sigil of how close, how far apart, the star up here, the moon down here, the squiggly lines in between. What does that mean? How does that feel? Because every mark that we make with our hands, with our bodies, each has a feeling. So if we just draw a circle, right, there's a feeling to the circle. If you just draw a line across, right, that has a particular sensation. Make a little zigzag, right? That has a different feel too. So every single mark that we make has an energy to it. So tapping into that, we get the energy and the meaning together, and then it adds another important layer to what we're doing.
And with that, we are going to go to commercial. And when we come back, we'll go to the Witch's Cabinet. The witching hour is here, and new magical products arrive at Moonlight Potions and Charms. And what appears during the magical hour? Our mysterious triple goddess Hecate key necklace comes in 2 sizes, perfectly aligned with her will, so her devotees can find their way through the darkness. The handsome hand of God statues, believed to be protective talismans of luck, fertility, abundance, and good health, come in black or white. One of the best ways to bring your ancestors with you no matter where you go is our traveling ancestor altar on the go. They come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. Perfect for all of your needs. They include candles, an oil, a toy for the little ones who passed on, and so much more to honor their beloved dead. And our Papa Legba key necklace are perfect for the devotees of the King of the Crossroads. It comes in 2 sizes, each one specifically prayed over and dedicated to Papa Legba himself. And appearing for the first time, Baron Sam D and Mama Gray J, Altar on the Go limited edition. Yes, you can take your altar to the cemetery with you. How cool is that? The traveling altar is complete with top hats, coffin nails, a cross from Mama Bridget, and so much more with room for you to add your own items. So show Baron Sam D and Mama Bridget the altar perfect for them. And don't forget, our bare bone trio, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, Skeletons, have returned. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Anybody can tell you what is on a tarot or oracle card. What matters is seeing beyond what others may not be able to see and help the client to uncover what lies in the mist. What do readings from Moonlight Potions and Charms do? Wednesday I did this ancestor reading, and it was an amazing reading, and it was a detailed reading. And I remember talking to this customer's ancestors, and it was so delightful, and he wanted some questions to be answered about the magic in his family because he didn't know. And his family was mostly like most of our families are. You know how everything is like hush hush when it comes to the magic in his family. And he wanted to know who can he actually talk to about the history of the magic in his family. And I was able to give him specifically who he can go to talk to about that. What particular deity he can actually go to be able to help him with this. And it was just an amazing reading, and talking to his ancestors. They were such a delight, and they told me so much about this customer. It was just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful reading for him. And I was just so happy to be able to give him this wonderful reading. It's really amazing to be able to give people these readings, these products that's really going to help them, and be able to give back to the community, because this is what Moonlight Potions and Charms is about. We want to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. That is what we are all about. It's to help you to do that. Book now and allow our wonderful staff to take care of your spiritual reading needs. And there is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you.
Welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. I'm Saul Ravencraft. I'm here with Miss Nikki Kirby, and we are here with Laura Zakroff. And we have been talking about sigils. We have been talking about embodying magic. We've gone on quite a journey here. And I asked you, Laura, if you had something you could share that was pretty accessible for people. And unlike some folks, when we spring that on them, you went, why, yes, I do. I got something right here. And this is involving your oracle cards.
Yes. So we're going to do a special little spread with the Anatomy of a Witch Oracle, but you can, if you don't have this oracle, you can grab a tarot deck, you can grab playing cards, you can grab another kind of oracle deck, and kind of factor it through too. So this particular spread, I talk about this one on my YouTube channel too. So folks, if they were like, wait, you can always go back and check it out. But this is a spread actually devised at Mystic South, because that was the first time that I actually got to really hold the deck. And he was in the Llewellyn suite. It just kind of was about ready to come out. And then I went around the room to my fellow authors being like, so let's do a reading, right? Consensually. And so I just felt inspired to pull 4 cards. And what this helps you do, so your 4 cards, you're going to pull 3 cards that are pretty much, there's no particular order to them. So it's generally kind of person, place, or thing. What are the 3 factors you should be paying attention to? And the last card is your overall card, or your sort of prescription or focus. So let's consider right now we are in the Samhain to winter solstice season here in the Northern Hemisphere. And while most people are like, well, I just did a Samhain thing. I'm good, right? I'm good until the winter solstice. I'm like, no, this is a good time to continue really working with ancestral energy, with the land energy as things starting to recede, like for working with the changing of the light for ourselves, especially if you have seasonal affective disorder. So this is a spread that goes, okay, what should I work on? All right, so we're going to shuffle our cards. And it doesn't have to be any particular fancy layout. You're going to have 3 cards and then 1 more card on the side. Okay. All right. So I'm ready to pull 3 cards. The first card I've got is Maintain. The second card is New Moon. The third card is Vision. And then my last card, my 4th card, is Waxing and Waning. All right, so how do I devise a ritual from these 4 cards? Well, or as I said, the 3 cards here, these are my kind of person, place, or thing, our New Moon, our Vision, and our Maintain. Now in the Oracle, vision is part of the senses, right? So touch, taste, smell, we have vision. Maintain is part of body being. So the things that we do to take care of our bodies or states of living in our bodies. So we have to maintain our bodies. And New Moon is part of our lunar and solar events. Clearly, this is a lunar event, but it falls under that category. So right off the bat with Maintain, right, this call for daily practice. It's a call to pay attention to what should I be cleaning up? And I feel like this is calling me out right now because I've been busy and I've been away and I really, like, I can feel my house wanting to be cleaned. Right? I mean, it's not a terrible disaster, but I still feel like it's time for a deep clean. So to really get behind the cabinets, to really dust, to pull things out. And to do this, if I was going to pull, the new moon we are moving through, right? As folks are seeing this, we're echoing from the full moon into the new moon. So we're in that receding energy. All right, to really focus on also when we have the new moon, we are looking at that seated energy, right, of what's within us, what is the dark part, what are we dwelling within? And then lastly is vision, right? And this is the effect that sight has upon us. And so to me, with these other 2 cards, it's about what am I doing to really visually craft my environment around me? So as I'm cleaning it, am I organizing it in such a way that it's de-stressing and that it actually makes me feel more at home? But to really recognize overall with the waxing and waning card, right, everything has an ebb and a flow. To recognize that even as I'm making these small tweaks and changing things, like they're going to have to be done again and again, so that this is going to be a continual process. So kind of establishing something, it says make a spreadsheet. Make a spreadsheet. To recognize that these things that we do, like when we're down on ourselves about, oh, my house isn't clean, or I'm not doing these other things that I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm expected to be doing, they realize that there's a season for everything, and that there are going to be points where we're really on point, and that there are times where we're just going to need to lay fallow to let things go a little bit to take better care of ourselves. So it doesn't have to be like a deep clean through everything, but a little bit at a time, a little increase and decrease. So what did you all get for your cards? Let's kind of take that same approach and see what your card said.
Nikki, you want to go next? Or me?
Saul? Yeah.
Okay, sure. So in the cards that I drew, the first one I got was the Skull of Light. This is from the Halloween Oracle deck.
Okay.
Let me get things in the right space. It talks about illumination. And the second one was winter. which is about the importance of pausing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one was the Skull of Stars, which is about infinite possibilities.
And what's your fourth card?
The fourth card is the Skeleton, which is about strength.
All right. So I feel very much in alignment, right? So we have, we can see light as illumination, right? Both of those points in there of what is it that we need to bring that light to, and also recognizing the winter, right? The winter is that pulling into the self. It is the seasonal change that we're acknowledging. And the skeleton there is also a call for structure, right? What is the traditions that hold things up? We're also running into the season of lights, right? We have so many light-oriented festivals. And so your particular ritual might be, what lights are you hanging up? What sort of things are you going to do to remind yourself of the returning light again? And to honor that, whether that's a daily candle, whether that's, putting it up on, of course, that's my father in my head, is like, put it on the Hanukkah bush to put up the lights.
Right.
Around that also just sort of illuminate what's going on. And that also helps back to that internal energy, right? What had the new moon in my deck with yours in here too. It's that, what are we doing within to kind of heal and to give that comfort?
So translating this into a ritual, it sounds like light would be involved, candles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do I want to consider in creating this ritual?
So especially with that sense of tradition, that kind of call out, right, for the structure and strength of, the skeleton there, is it might be something that you do every day. Maybe you're going to get one of those nice big tall candles and spend a couple moments each day just sort of lighting the candle and focus on what light do I want to bring into my world? And just do a little bit of that each day. Or maybe you're like, I only have time to do that on Fridays. And so you do that just a little bit, while you're present, while you're being mindful of it, not just something that you're going to light the candle and walk away. But that way you're there and you're like, okay, for 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to do this visualization, or I'm going to do a chant, or I'm going to read from a book in my library that's going to bring some new knowledge and wisdom. Combining that with the light is a great way of doing that. And again, creating a pattern that's not just a one-time thing. It's something that's going to get you through the whole season.
Right. All right, Nikki, you're in the hot seat.
Well, I'm still getting to learn these conjure cards, which are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I figured out what mine is. And basically, it's a separation ritual that I got to do. My first one is the Ace of Diamonds, which is a ring. And it means a pairing of two people. And it's a change in luck is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the 7 of spades. And what that means is there is a blood drop. It means a significant loss in war. And then we have the King of Clubs, which is the crucifix. And this is a man who is like set in his ways about absolutely everything. And he is somebody who is he's not going to change, period. And then you've got the 2 of spades.
Mm-hmm.
And with the 2 of spades, it's the broken bottle. And the broken bottle is a fight. It's a trouble thing. And it's basically a separation. That's what it is. So, with that denotes, basically, I have to do a separation spell to get him to leave the issue alone and to I mean, it's something that, and I know what's going to be causing it, but that's something that needs to be done.
Mhm.
So there we go. And I was, I didn't really understand when you were doing it with you, but when you were explaining it with Saul, I was like, oh, I can explain. Hey, that's easy. And then I went and did that. So yeah.
Yep. And
That's
you
cool.
you can see that too. Is like, it's also a call for protection, right? To kind of put things up, to be prepared to cleanse and to strengthen the self. So yeah, and it's pretty simple, right? It's like, because it's not like you have to order of which of those 3 cards are more important. It's they're each giving you a little bit of factor, a little bit part of the story. And then you put the story together for what's important to you. So it's not like people are like, oh, I need to know like what color candles. Like it's not that. It's what is the feel of this ritual or this spell, what you should be paying attention to. So great way to do it without overstressing it.
Right. And it's something that, well, number one, if you know what you're doing, you really don't need to know what color candle or anything like that anyway. Because I mean, it's a simple, for me, it's simple, but then again, I'm really experienced about it. If you're a baby witch, or what they call baby witches, yeah, I can understand wanting to know what the color candles, which we've already been through that with witch hat chats and everything. But yeah, it's a simple thing. I kind of like this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a great way for helping sharpen your intuition too. So for those people who aren't feeling so experienced, it's like, okay, trust yourself a little bit. And witchcraft is an experimental and experiential path. So it's like you don't need permission for everything. Like you have to maybe give yourself permission. That's it. Like, and then trust it, play with it, see what happens, because the world's not going to end.
Right.
I mean, it might, but it won't be your own doing, hopefully.
All right. So where can our people reach you at?
I am on the various social medias. So the easiest thing, though, to find everything is through lauratempestzakroff.com, or the link tree, which I believe you also have, will be in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at alchemy.arts. Alchemy is spelled weird because it is OWLKEYME, because it's an owl key me. Because I like puns too. But you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, as long as it's still standing, and other places on the internet. Of course, YouTube as well for my channel.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was a delight to be able to talk to you about sigils and all kinds of different things.
Thank you so much. And I'll hopefully see you next year in Atlanta.
All right. All right. So that's all for our show today. Join us next week when Saul and I will be chatting with Patty Wigginton. So get your vaccinations and your boosters and support each other, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, your friends, and yourself safe, and have an absolute marvelous week.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki, Kirby with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Life and soul with a beautiful mind. I give you blessings under moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk.